Welcome to everyone that's joining. I'm soon going to start on this grade 7 to 9 higher GCSE mini test that you can find on Maths Genie. Okay, it is a very lovely tool from a very useful website for GCSE maths. Okay, if you've got any questions so far, please leave them in the comments. And if you are following along, I would like you to just mention in the comments any sort of suggestions or anything that you've got to say about any of these questions. Okay, so as you can see, we've already done question 1 last time, so that was last week, and today we're going to start with question 2, which is on working out a missing angle. Okay, so for question 2, who knows what the topic might be for question 2? Okay, so that is this one here. What do we think the topic might be for that? Any suggestions from anyone? Okay, rather quiet today, everyone that is joining. So as you can see, question 2, we haven't got a right angle triangle, so that means that it's going to be one of 2 rules. Okay, so it can either be the sine rule or the cosine rule to work out a missing angle. Okay, does anyone know the formula for any of those, sine rule or the cosine rule, to work out missing angles? Let me know again in the comments, please. Anyone got any ideas about sine rule, cosine rule? Welcome to everyone that's joining. My name is Miss Aisha. I'm a maths teacher and a tutor as well. Please double tap the screen if you're following along and share the live with others as well. So this question, like I just mentioned, it's going to be the sine rule. Okay, and the reason being is if I show you by labeling all our vertices, so that means the corners, because that will then help us to label all of our sides as well. So the first thing to do with cosine or a sine question is to label all your sides and your corners or the angles. Okay, so I'm just going to randomly label them. It doesn't have to be in any particular order. So I'm going to go for A for this corner, so this angle, B for this x degrees, which we're trying to work out, and C, capital C, for this angle, again, that we don't really know. Okay, and right directly opposite these angles is going to be my sides. Okay, so right opposite my capital C would be my small c, lowercase. Opposite my capital B or my x degrees will be my lowercase b, and same for the opposite of the capital A. So these little ABCs that you see are denoting the side lengths, okay, which is going to make up our formula for the sine rule. So I'm going with the sine rule because we can see that we've got at least 2 sides that we know, okay, and also one angle that we know and one angle that we're trying to work out. The cosine rule, on the other hand, is more so when you've just got one angle, okay, that you're trying to work out, and you know all the other sides. So that's why we're going to be using the sine rule. Okay, if you know the sine rule, let me know in the comments. Welcome to everyone that is joining. Welcome. So I'm going to write down the sine rule then. That is just going to be, if I show you on this other piece of paper over here. Thank you for the likes to people that are joining and liking. So the sine rule is going to be as follows. So we are going to start with sine A at the top, okay, over sine A, over lowercase a, sorry. So this is question number 2, is equals to sine B over B, which equals sine C over C. Okay, now this is what the sine rule typically looks like for this question, okay? Because it's an missing angle question, that is why we've got the sine A, sine B, sine C, so the angles at the top and the lengths on the side. If it was a missing length question, it would be the other way around. So we'll have A over sine A, B over sine B, C over sine C, okay? That's just how the two different types of the questions work with the formulas. So let's go ahead and input my values now for this formula, okay? So sine A we already know from the question. Let's go again. We have got 105 degrees, and we also know lowercase a is 11 centimeters. So I'm just going to go ahead and write those down. So that's going to be sine 105 degrees over 11, which is equal to sine x degrees, which was my sine B, my angle B, which again we don't know, so it's just sine x degrees, okay? Over the length of B, which was 9 centimeters, and sine C we don't really know, and nor do we know the lowercase c, so we're going to leave it there and just keep these two, okay, that we know. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and solve and rearrange to work out what x will be. So that is where you get your calculator out for this question and calculate the answer. If any of you know already or you worked it out, let me know in the comments, please. Double tap the screen as well if you're following along, finding it helpful, and any questions, let me know. I know currently the year 10s, you might have finished your mocks, or you might be having your mocks, okay? So this sort of stuff will be quite helpful for you if you are in year 10, even year 9, because that's what you're going to get up to probably next year. So what we're going to do is sine 105 degrees over 11. So I'm just going to put that down in my calculator. Sine 105 degrees over 11, okay, and I get this, so I'm just going to do the format button, decimal, so it's going to be 0.0878 whatever, so I'm just going to write down 0.0878 for now, okay, is equal to sine x degrees over 9. So my next step will be, and I'm going to keep that saved on my calculator, I won't get rid of it, just because to keep my accuracy, okay? I don't want to round just yet. I'm going to round right at the end, especially for these questions. So I'm going to take now the 9 on the other side, okay? So what I'm doing is rearranging, so I'm timesing by 9 both sides. These two cancel out and 9 goes over there, okay? So that means I'm doing 9 times by 0.0878 is equal to sine x degrees, okay? So let's go, ooh, luckily we've got the answer button, so I can just go ahead and use that. Answer times by 9, okay, is going to be format decimal this, and then what I need to do finally, again, I'm not going to get rid of that, I'll just note that it's 0.79 for now, okay, dot dot dot, and again what I'm going to do is this inverse of sine for that, okay, because again I've got to take my sine okay, to the other side. X stays as it is. So here it was sine x degrees. So when I take it to the other side, I've got to do inverse of the sine function. So inverse sine of 0.79. Okay, of course that will be done on the calculator. So the how we've done this, the maths behind it is that I've multiplied both sides by inverse of sine. Okay. Have I just done? Yeah, so inverse of sine, so that way this is cancelled out, and now I'm just left with that on this side. So far, if you are following along, give it a double tap, and any sort of comments you've got, anything you've got to add, please leave it in the comments. Okay, and if I again go ahead and put that on my calculator, so I'm going to do sine inverse, so that is this button, but I've got to do shift and then my answer button, and yeah, we can see that all Thank you, Aisha, for the likes. Okay, so the equal sign, and we've got 52.2138. So if I round that, the answer question says to give your answer to 1 decimal place. Okay, that means, what do we think it would be if it's to 1 decimal place? Let me know in the comments if you know what that would be. Okay, so x is just going to be, what do we think it will be? So if we round this to 1 decimal place, any ideas what we might get? Do we know our rounding? Anyone that is watching? Okay, I'm going to round this. So we get x is equal to 52.2 degrees. 2 degrees. Okay, and that is the answer using the sine rule. Okay, double tap the screen if you have understood that whole method, and if you've got any questions about it, of course, leave it in the comments section below. So we've just done question 2. We got that was 52.2 degrees. Okay, and now we're just going to move on to question 3. Which is, given that g of x equals this, work out an expression for the inverse, so g to the power -1 of x, so the inverse function of g of x. Now that is usually a tricky one for some people, for usually some students. Again, if you've got any ideas that you'd like to share for this, let me know in the comments. Okay, to everyone that's just joining, we are doing a higher GCSE mini test 2 based on lots of higher topics. Okay, so it's a collection of higher topics. If you'd like to take part, please let me know in the comments, and if you have any questions as well, you can let me know in the comments too. If you are interested in choosing the topic for the next live session, so next Thursday, please subscribe to my page, and that way when you become a subscriber you do have that benefit of picking the next topic. Okay, it could be anything, it could be a particular topic, subject, or even a particular exam paper that we could go through. Okay, so I'm going to go through this question here and work out the inverse of g of x. Now the way we do that is we first replace g of x with the letter, what was it again? We're going to replace that, sorry, g of x with x, yes. Sorry, I always get confused between this one, but we're going to replace the g of x with x and our normal x here with y. Okay, and then we're going to rearrange to make y the subject. Okay, so it's going to be as follows. So g of x is equal to 5x plus 3 currently. If I replace the g of x with y, sorry, with x, and here I'm going to replace my x with y, so it becomes 5y plus 3. Now my job is to rearrange this equation to try and make y the subject. Okay, and that y just denotes my inverse function of x. Okay, if you're following along, liking this live session, please give it a double tap, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Okay, so now the first step to try and get y on its own is to subtract 3 from both sides. So as follows, and that means I've now got x minus 3 on this side and 5y on this side. Okay, and then my next step, if I take it up here, so that means these two cancel out. And now my next step is going to be, what do we think my next step might be? To people that are watching, who have I got? I've got Abram and somebody else as well, a couple of others. What do we think the next step might be to try and make y the subject? Anyone got any ideas? So currently it's 5y is equal to x minus 3, but we would just want y. So I'm just going to answer myself because I feel like we are being a bit shy today. So the way we do that is we're just going to divide by 5 on both sides, okay? So we always do the inverse of the operation that's currently been going on attached to the subject that we're trying to make the subject, the variable, sorry. So we're going to divide by 5 on both sides. Okay, as follows. And this means that this and this cancel out, and I'm left with, on my left side, x minus 3 over 5 is equal to y. Okay, but I don't stop there because I need to remember write the expression for g inverse of x. So I'm going to replace my y now with g inverse of x. Okay, so the inverse function for x looks like this: x minus 3 all over 5. Okay, and that is my answer. Give it a double tap if you've understood it. If you've got any questions about it, let me know in the comments, please, and I am more than happy to answer that for you. Okay, welcome to everyone that's joining. My name is Miss Aisha. I'm a maths teacher and tutor, and currently we're going through this higher GCSE mini test. Okay, so I'm going to end it there and hopefully carry this on next week. If you've got any suggestions for the next live session, please drop them in the comments, or you can inbox me as well. If you're looking for maths tuition, please get in touch with me through inbox as well. Okay, and I'll see you all in the next live session.